I kind of developed the mantra that I wasn't living to teach, but I was teaching to make a living. With that said, of course, I knew that I was in a very good place to make a positive impact in the lives of those children. But at the end of the day, it is a job. And just remembering that teaching did not need to be my entire identity. It didn't need to be in my entire life. But interestingly enough, when I made that shift, nothing at work fell apart. Nothing. And my students still knew that I was there for them 100% while they were there. And I gave my all during the workday, but at 4 o'clock, I was ready to give my all to my family and to myself.
Rainbow Sky Creations acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Dharawal and Whadjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Well, hello and welcome back to Rainbow Skies for Teachers. Today on the podcast, I am joined by someone I really admire, and she's also kind of a mentor as well. Her name is Shelly Rees from Appletastic Learning. Now, Shelly is one of those teachers who truly leads with heart and practicality. She understands the realities of classroom life, the pressure to do all of the things, and that quiet overwhelm that can creep in when you deeply care about your students. In this conversation, we are going to dive into realistic, heart-centered teaching, what it actually looks like, how to stay purposeful without burning out, because we do not need burnt out teachers, and why teaching intuition matters more than chasing the trends that we see online. Shelly shares systems, habits, and routines. Some of them are so simple that you are going to want to steal them straight away. This episode is for any teacher who loves what they do but wants permission to slow down, trust themselves, and focus on what really matters. Here is my mentor and my friend, Shelly Rees. Shelly Rees, you teach with so much heart. How do you define meaningful teaching, especially in upper elementary, when the teaching job and load can feel so demanding?
Yeah, so teacher definitely is demanding. There's no question about it. We all know that's definitely a truth. But I think meaningful teaching is more about the relationships that we have with the children and thinking of each and every child that walks into your classroom as somebody's daughter or somebody's son, somebody's child, and that person deserves to feel loved and needed. And when I look back through the scope of my career, I started teaching back in the 90s, so now I'm dating myself. I have become Facebook friends with some of my former students. They've come and requested that friendship, and that's kind of fun because I think now I can see portions of their lives that maybe weren't very happy. And I like to think that maybe I was that bright spot for them. I was that warm spot. That's what it's about. At the end of the day, the test scores, yes, they're important, but it's those friendships, it's those relationships that are important.
Yeah, I think you're echoing what so many teachers have come on our podcast or teachers that we've connected with all over the world say, is that the relationship is the core part and then the learning comes later, because kids spend a lot of time with the teachers in their classrooms.
Yes, absolutely. I realized a few years into my teaching, and actually when my own sons got into school, like their teachers were spending more of my child's waking hours with them than I was. And so when we consider that, it's so important that we are kind and that those students feel that love during those hours.
Yeah. I think sometimes showing them the love and the compassion and giving them the time can be tricky when we feel like we've got all these added pressures. Like, I know that's how I felt in the classroom. I felt like I had all of these added pressures. And I get the feeling that you were one of those teachers, Shelly, that went above and beyond. So can you tell us, in your teaching career, when you realized that doing more just wasn't the answer?
Yeah, you might be right about the above and beyond.
Yes.
I'm not going to deny, but there was a point that I reached in my teaching career when I realized that I was giving more to my job than I was to my family. And I was exhausted, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, just exhausted, worrying about so much. I'm still a worrier. Like I worry about every single thing. But I realized that not only did my kids and my husband deserve better, but I deserved better too. I just began volunteering a little less. I learned the word no, and I learned to say it firmly but nicely, and volunteering a little bit less and making sure that I left by 4 o'clock every day. So our school day, our contractual hours were 7:55 a.m. to 3:25 p.m. So at this point, I started arriving about 7:45, and I'll tell you, I know that's a tight window, 10-minute window, but I had to drop my own kids off at daycare, get them dropped up at the middle school, and then get there. And I'm not a morning person. And then I would make sure that I left by 4 o'clock every day. I would say 95% of the time I followed that rule. But interestingly enough, when I made that shift, nothing at work fell apart. Nothing. And my students still knew that I was there for them 100% while they were there. And I gave my all during the workday, but at 4 o'clock, I was ready to give my all to my family and to myself.
That is great advice, especially for somebody who's walked in that journey before, perhaps our listeners, when they're thinking, I've got so much to do. I can stay at work till 6 o'clock each night and I still don't feel like I'm getting things done. That to-do list is never going to end. So I love that you focused fully on your job in one set of hours and then you had time for your family in the other set. And then if you don't have a family, that time's for you.
Right. And, I know it's difficult with all of the things we have to do as teachers. But I will also say I found minutes during the school day that I put to use that I had been wasting unknowingly, chit-chatting during my prep time with a fellow teacher. I actually stopped eating in the faculty room for a period of time, mostly because it was a little bit negative during that period of time. But that was 25 minutes that I could eat and work at the same time. So I would get little things done here and there throughout the day that those minutes do add up.
Yeah, they really do. So you try to put yourself aside during your planning time so that you didn't get distracted by chatting, which is so easy to do. That happened to me yesterday. I work at home and I cooked up my coffee and I got home and my neighbor whose birthday it was yesterday was like, hi. And she came over and we sat out the front and had a coffee. It was really nice, but I really did have other things to do. So stopping the chit chatting, you didn't go and eat lunch in the faculty room. Instead, you ate it in your classroom at your desk. Anything else? Any other little gems?
So I would say during the planning time, I knew what I was going to be working on before planning time arrived so that I didn't drop my kids off at music class, go back to my room and say, what am I going to do in the next 40 minutes? I had a plan of attack before the time came so that I wasn't spinning my wheels, wasting 10 minutes of the 40 minutes figuring out what to do. So that's definitely one recommendation I would make, and think about it in the minutes leading up to your prep. What do I have to do today? Also, when you go to take those things to the office, if you copy them yourself or if you leave them for somebody to copy for you, don't stand around just talking in the office. And I know it's so tempting because we need those other adults in our life, but I needed that time. And I really began safeguarding my minutes more carefully.
Which we do need to do because teachers are time poor.
Yes, very time poor. That's a good way to say it.
Yes. So, okay, you've given us a lot of takeaways there. Do you have any other go-to systems or routines that help you feel overall calm and in control when these busy teaching weeks came up?
Yes, for sure. I am the queen of routine and organization. I won't say I'm fully organized in my personal life because I'm not. Things are a bit of a mess and chaos from time to time. But I have found that when you do have routines and systems in place, like I said, you know what you're going to do. There's no guesswork. It saves you time, but it also saves you that mental exertion and mental space. So I actually had like 4 different routines that I used as a teacher on a very regular basis. I did not have these routines established when I first started teaching, but they kind of came over time. They developed over time. So I would say the first thing was my 7:45 a.m. routine. That's when I would get to school. The kids would be coming down the hallway at 7:55. So during that time, I would make sure my Diet Coke was ready to go for the day. I'm not a coffee drinker. I have tried it. It is too bitter for me. I know like there's going to be people out there like, what? I love the bubbles and the carbonation that a Diet Coke can offer me. So that was ready to go in a tumbler or a cup. Fountain drink is best. And then I would take a breath and I would stand by the door with a smile, even if I was super grouchy, which as moms, I'm sure many people can relate. Those mornings are crazy. I would adopt the attitude of like, I'm going to fake it till I make it. I'm going to smile until I feel it. Those kids deserve that. So that was my first routine that I've developed. And it's very simple, but it helped me to start the day out right. The next routine was what I call my 3:05 p.m. routine. That's when the kids would all be on the bus or out the door. I would go back to my room and I would prepare for the next day. And so all worksheets, all materials would be stacked on my desk in one pile in the order they would be used the next day, so that I was not scrambling the next morning. So that way, the next morning, I could do my 7:45 routine without trying to pull everything together. My desk was completely tidy before I left. If the room wasn't tidy, okay, but my desk had to be tidy. I'm going to go off track for a second here. I'm really dating myself now. Back when the internet was first a thing.
Yeah.
And Facebook was not even around. I think Facebook was around. Yeah. There was this lady and she was called the Fly Lady. Have you heard of her?
I have not. No, tell me more.
She was called the Fly Lady, and her goal was to help you to have a cleaner, tidier home so that you were less stressed as a mom. And so I was struggling in this area because, 4 young boys, working husband, church, all the responsibilities, work. My house was a little bit of a mess, let's say. And so the Fly Lady, she called herself that because she was annoying. She wouldn't go away. She would keep coming back at you. And just like a fly, buzzing around.
Yes.
So she would send out these random emails to people on her list a couple times of a day. And she would tell you, it's time for a 5-minute tidy up. And she would tell you to throw 7 things away. Go find 7 things that go in the garbage and put them there now. And it was just these tiny little tasks. But the one thing that she preached, the Fly Lady preached, was the shiny sink. And before you went to bed every single night, you would have to make sure that your sink was completely empty of dirty dishes, that it was clean, that it was shiny, so that when you woke up in the morning and you went to your kitchen, you would be like, oh, like you wouldn't be greeted immediately by things undone, by a mess. And it really did work. Like it made me feel calmer in the morning because it was just a fresh place to start in the morning. And so I kind of carried that over to school. And I made sure that my desk was like my shiny sink. The desk was clean, it was neat, it was tidy, so that when I walked through the door in my classroom at 7:45 a.m., I was greeted by, hey, we're ready to go. Like, let's roll. So that was another routine that I developed.
That is fabulous. We have lots of flies here in Australia. Like they get really, really bad in the summertime, which is right now. So we can relate with how annoying they are. But I love her annoyingness because really what she was doing is saying little tiny actions lead up into something really big.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is fabulous. Yeah. Home life, school life, all of those little actions that make a difference. And I like that you brought that shiny sink to your desk. That's something that I didn't do in the classroom. I always worried about everything else. But actually, I can see how that would ground you, and you've got that one little sacred space for you. And the
Yes.
kids can help you clean up the rest of the classroom, can't they? Because it's
Absolutely. And they love to help. Yeah. Real quick, the other two is my Friday routine. This one could not be ignored. It had to be done. Lesson plans for the entire next week, finished, ready to go. All of the copies for the next week are done. And I had them very organized and ready to go so that, we talk about those Sunday scaries where we felt yuck about thinking about work the next morning. I think my Sunday scaries were helped a lot by my Friday routine, having those things ready to go for Monday morning. Then the last routine that I did wasn't necessarily for myself, but it did make me feel good, was 2 positive notes a week. I would pick 2 students to send a positive note home or email for, or even a phone call. I would do that 2 a week. So let's say you have 26 students, 13 weeks, you touch on all your students and then you cycle through the names again.
I love that one. We used to have a membership for new teachers, and we would encourage them to connect with parents positively, because otherwise sometimes you don't connect with parents at all, or you only connect with them when they have a problem.
Yes.
Many years ago, I taught in Dubai. And one of the things that teachers who teach in Dubai do a lot is tutor outside of school. And you'd go and tutor students for hours at a time. Anyway, there was this one little boy that I tutored twice a week for a couple of hours. So I spent a lot of time with him. And he didn't really love it. He'd been at school all day and then he had to sit with me. But a couple of weeks in, his mum came in to where we were working and she said, "Oh, you'll never believe it." And she had a printed piece of paper. She said, "I just got an email from his teacher," and she read it out. And it was just saying how hard he was working, and the teacher had noticed. It made the child beam. I was so proud.
I got chills just now.
Yeah. The mum, when she was delivering this, she was so proud and so pleased with him. Now, we don't know. Maybe that was a similar kind of thing, what that teacher was doing, just going down the list and just connecting with parents. But gosh, it made a difference to that child and that family. Like even the mum, it made a difference for her. So little things. And an email's great because you don't have to take that time out to make the phone call and leave the message, or even a handwritten note. It's really, really nice.
It really is. And I taught in a very small school district. It's very rural, about 50 students per graduating class there. And because we lived in rural Pennsylvania, my own sons were in the school where I taught. And inevitably, I actually taught them all for something along the way. But I do know, like, as a mom where my kids were going to school, it was hard on them because there were those teachers, those negative Nellies, they would see you in the hallway and they would use it as an opportunity to tell me something my child had done wrong. And I thought, like, is this something you would call home about? Because I really don't want to hear about it unless it's something major that you would have called home about.
Yeah.
And I think that taught me like the importance of just like sharing the positive. It needs to be done.
Yeah, it sure does. And if you're working in a school where there are kids that go there that teachers are teaching at the same school, there needs to be some sort of boundaries or shared understanding of how we communicate about that.
Now, with that said, many teachers shared lovely things about my children.
I'm sure they did, yeah.
But you know how it is. We hear that, we focus on that negative.
Yeah,
it's just human nature.
So we've had those 4 routines. You've given us so much information here, Shelly. Like, I love that they're so simple and so actionable. Like, listeners could take away those 4 routines and use them themselves straight away.
Thank you.
Any other survival habits that you're keeping under your hat that helped you show up for your students?
I don't know that they were necessarily habits, but maybe more of a mindset. I kind of developed the mantra that I wasn't living to teach, but I was teaching to make a living. With that said, of course, I knew that I was in a very good place to make a positive impact in the lives of those children. But at the end of the day, it is a job. And just remembering that teaching did not need to be my entire identity. It didn't need to be in my entire life. It was okay for me to make my own needs and my own family my main priority. But by doing that, I really did feel more balanced. And strangely enough, I feel like I was a better teacher at the end of the day because I wasn't so unbalanced, I guess. And I guess also the other one is learn to choose your battles. Learn to choose your battles with students particularly. It really does not matter at the end of the day if you have a student who is sitting on their knees in their seat or whether they have their feet planted properly on the floor. It does not matter, at least in my mind. Maybe for posture's sake, yes. But I wanted kids to be comfortable. And I realized also like not all kids like learn the same. Not all kids, they all have different needs. Choose your battles. Like number 2 pencil, mechanical pencil. I mean, unless it's a standardized test where the lead actually matters, some things are not worth the battle. I remember once I had a mother come up to me, and she came up to me several times after her boy left my classroom. I had him in 4th grade, so he was about 10. He was a very active little boy. And she came up to me, she said, I will never forget how kind you were to my son. You knew that he could not stay in his seat all day, and you let him stand up and do his work at his desk. And she's like, it was those little things that really made a difference with him. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it. But later, after, raising my own boys, I'm like, oh yeah, one of my kids would have needed to do that too.
Well, it's about making concessions or changes for students so that they get the best for their own personality and what that they need. Since having my own kids, I sit and read with them every night, and they're in primary school now. I was telling you earlier, they're 10, 8, and 6. And sometimes we'll read chapter books and we'll read them together. Sometimes we'll still read picture books together, and we really love that time. But often there's one that loves to roll around or like move constantly while I'm reading. And for a while I was like, sit still like I would in the classroom. And I've really thought about this, and I realized that the sitting still is for me. So I'm not triggered and I'm not overstimulated while I'm trying to read. Is this child or any other child that I've ever taught that's sort of rolling around on the floor or moving or tapping or whatever, are they still listening? Yes, quite possibly they are. Maybe that movement is actually helping them stay focused and listen. And the annoyance is kind of on me. So I think sometimes when we shift that perspective as a teacher and we realize, okay, it's just me that's overstimulated, what are some things that I can do as the adult to get through this so I'm not sort of annoyed by it, but the child still is getting what they need?
Right. Absolutely. That is really good insight. I also want to add to that, like I did run a pretty tight ship, and there were rules and there were boundaries. So if it was going to be something that was highly disturbing to everyone else, obviously that's a no, but we'll find something else to take its place like that. But yeah, it's so interesting, that balance.
It is interesting, the balance. And you're right, you've got to find ways that suit you as a teacher and suit your class, and every class is different.
Yeah. And every teacher is different. We're all different in how we approach things and what our own needs are.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's switch gears a little and let's talk about teaching trends, because you've been a teacher for a long time, and I'm sure you've seen countless teaching trends come and go. I have too over the years. There's things that come all the way back around again. We're like, oh, we're seeing this again. We did this 15 years ago. Can you give us a little bit of insight in how to deal with these trends and these changes, and why you believe teacher intuition is important?
Oh, boy.
It's a big one.
It is a big one. So yeah, that educational pendulum is going to continue swinging as long as time keeps ticking. That pendulum is going to go on back and forth, and eventually it comes full circle. I have come to realize that. Here's the key though, for me. Trends don't inform my decisions in life. They don't inform my necessarily approach in life. What does inform my actions is my own personal knowledge and my own personal instincts that I have as a human being, as a mother and as a teacher. So I keep in mind we are professionals. We are highly trained professionals. We know what works with students and what doesn't work for children. We also know, and we have to take into account the backgrounds, if we are fortunate enough to know those backgrounds, of each student and what their specific needs are. So no trend is going to know our students like we do. So definitely follow your instincts. I also, feel that I'm pretty lucky in the aspect that I am a mom of 4, because I do have like life experience to better understand how those children think and what they need in the moment. And also I have I would say, insight or the perspective that every child is so unique and is going to learn so differently. And a trend does not necessarily align with that. So it really has helped me to grasp the importance of every single child, their learning styles, their backgrounds. We have students who come to school hungry. We have students who come to school in survival mode, literally survival mode. We have some students who come to school expecting perfection of themselves. And these trends don't inform us on how to approach those students. So we really have to use our own humanness, if that's a word, in approaching those kids and how they learn.
Absolutely. So kind of piggybacking off that, we've got social media out there now, which didn't exist when you first started teaching. We've got professional development out there that you can kind of pick and choose. And there's some fantastic elements of that.
Amazing.
And we've been able to connect with teachers all over the world. And I know, particularly as an Australian teacher, some of the things that we didn't do very well is have fun in our classrooms. And I started connecting with teachers like you and other teachers in especially the US. And I feel like you guys do fun a little better than we do, like with themes and things like that. But in taking all of that into account, it can sometimes make us feel as teachers like we're not doing enough.
Yeah. So let me just first of all say you are enough. To any teacher listening to this, you are more than enough. And my advice to this, I have a little bit of a couple things to share here, would be just like we would be kind to anyone, we need to be kind to ourselves. I think that social media sets a truly unrealistic bar, especially to young women, to teenage girls, to young women, and to women are, as a woman myself, it sets these unrealistic bars that it's not attainable. And I think if you were giving advice to a younger woman on handling the pressure of social media, your advice to her probably will be, that's not realistic. And you are doing great just as you are. Let's turn that voice around and say that to ourselves. Let's just speak kindly to ourselves. My advice on this, and I recently, within the last year, learned to turn on the time limits on your social media. So for Instagram and for Facebook, for me, I learned you can go into your settings on your iPhone and you can manage time limits. And to those teachers who are really struggling with this comparison viewpoint, set those time limits. And if you are scrolling, if you see an idea that looks fun or helpful, I want you to ask yourself, is it realistic though? Is this realistic for my teaching situation? Is this going to cause a ton of work, or is the outcome going to be worth the time investment and the mental exertion that we're going to use for this? And I am all about fun. I loved having fun in the classroom. I was all about games and gamifying learning, and I'm a competitor. So all of those things, but honestly, don't let social media be the driver of the choices you make for activities for your students. Yes, we can get great ideas there, but set limits. If you have an answer that is yes, like this is realistic for me and I can do this, copy that link, take a screenshot, put it in a maybe folder, and come back to that maybe folder later and pull ideas from it. But the constant scrolling definitely can be harmful, I believe, to our mental health and mental well-being. Be your own best friend.
That is fabulous advice. It really, really is. Because there is such thing as too many ideas.
Yes.
I actually never thought that that would be something that I would say, but it's so true. Like, I've actually just started an anti-inflammatory diet.
Oh.
And so on TikTok, I've seen some of the anti-inflammatory diet stuff. I've been watching it. So now I'm just being flooded with like all of these people that are doing this anti-inflammatory diet and ideas for food. And at first, like when I saw one or two, I'm like, this is great. But now I'm like, there is so many great ideas out there, but it's overwhelming.
That algorithm knows you.
Yes, the algorithm is stalking me. Sometimes it's good just to stick with one or two things that you know that's going to work for you. And then there's got to be a time that you put it to the side. So that I think being your best friend is really great advice because you don't want to be overwhelmed with all of the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a teacher out there listening right now, Shelly, that feels like they're just surviving, they're questioning themselves, what do you want them to hear? You've given us so many gems already.
I would reiterate, be kind to yourself. You have value. You have worth. And if nobody told you, you are an incredible teacher. You are an incredible person for showing up for your students. You are going to have good days and you're going to have hard days. You are going to make mistakes. That is okay. That is part of being human. And that's how we learn. So that's how we improve. But honestly, making mistakes and learning from them, that's what makes us a wonderful, lovely human being. And so be kind to yourself.
Yeah. Not everyone can show up and support a classroom of children all day long. Like teachers have got a very, very special quality. And I don't think we're told that enough.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Shelly, we have a little tradition on our podcast.
Okay.
We get you to leave a question that we're going to ask a future guest. So I've got your question here. I'm not going to share it. It's a really good one. I've got a question that another guest has left for you, and I'm actually really, really interested to hear your answer on this one.
Oh,
ready
boy.
For it?
Oh, yeah.
What is one thing on the average teacher's to-do list that you believe is pointless?
Okay. So I would say, and this is going to sound so basic, maybe, but assigning all the questions on any given worksheet. I know that this is such a little.
This is not basic. This is really good. Okay, let's dive into this further.
Why in the world would you make a 10-year-old child sit and answer 30 long division questions if they can display or show you within 10 questions that they've mastered the skill? Like, I think we really need to stop and ask ourselves, what is the objective of having this child do this? First of all, it's a lose-lose situation. So it's a lose situation for the child because it's just busy work. Let's just face it. Like, it is just busy work. So I always say, if there's 20 questions, cut it in half to 10. Have them do the odd ones. Have them do the even ones. Because really the goal is for you to know, like, I guess it's twofold. One, for them to practice and perfect. And two, for you as a teacher to assess, do they have the skill? Do they not? Quickly. But also, it's a lose situation for yourself because who has to grade all those questions? You do. So let's think about it. If you could cut all the questions that you ask on worksheets or tests or assessments during the day, you would cut your grading time in half. In half. You talk about trying to find time during the day. There you go.
Yes, that is a time saver right there.
So I just feel like really think about why you're assigning things. Yeah, I feel like it's pointless to assign so much work.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a follow-up question, which I never do with these questions. I let them lie. But my follow-up question is, okay, so you spoke about the child that has got it and mastered it. What about the child that has not? So what would you do with that particular child?
Well, then that would be a reteach situation. You can see they're making mistakes within the first 2 or 3 problems, but obviously you can't see that, especially at 5th grade level. Like, you can't see it immediately. But let's say that they've done 10 problems and they've done them all wrong. Well, now they just practiced how to do it incorrectly. for 10 whole problems. So now they've got it in their brain even further. So that's a reteach moment. You're going to quickly take those kids, maybe look at the types of mistakes that they're making. Is it a very simple kind of error? Try to correct it. And then, from there, just do a little bit of intervention, reteaching, and go from there. And I know it's not always practical in the sense of maybe you've got 25 kids, but there are ways. You find a way. Just be creative.
Yeah, there definitely are ways. I taught a class that their behavior wasn't great. So if I pulled out a small group, like the rest of the class, it was like a zoo. I'll be honest. It wasn't great. Anyway, there was times that I needed to pull out groups and small amounts of children to work with them to do exactly what you were saying. And I just had to come up with a way that was going to work for this class. And assigning them all a task was not the way to do it. So what I ended up doing was we'd either quietly read, and I'd make sure that it was just a real quick 10-minute window, because these kids were young. They were in grade 2.
Right.
Or we would do a quick writing task that they just had to start and get going on. That was just nice and quiet. I put on quiet music so they remained focused while I did it. And was it the most ideal way of doing that? No, but it worked for the class.
Yeah, and I'm all about choices. So in that situation, I also would maybe write on the board early finishers, or not early finishers, but independent work options, and give them 3 options. 1, silent read, and they have to have a book. 2 would be maybe I have like a seasonal crossword or something like that they could work on. And then 3 would be maybe make a card, because I usually had a card making center set up in my classroom where they could make a card, and say something kind in the card and give it to somebody. That usually worked for me. But kids love to have options and choices.
Just like we do as adults.
Yes.
We like to have options and choices too. I was telling you about my middle child before we started interviewing, and she would love that make a card idea. Like, she would just eat that up. And it's so simple.
It is. Just find all your scrap paper, put it in a bin, a couple glue sticks, some scissors, and some stickers or something.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I feel like that might, as I said, so many pearls of wisdom throughout this entire podcast, but I feel like that is just the easiest takeaway that teachers could use straight away. Set up a card station for early finishers.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and your knowledge. I have learned a lot during our chat together. If listeners want to know more about you or want to connect with you, you have some amazing resources that they can print and go and use in the classroom, especially for upper elementary classrooms. Where can listeners connect with you? Where can they find your awesome resources?
Oh, thank you. So my main place where I'm usually at is over on Teachers Pay Teachers, TPT, at my shop, which is Shelly Rees. Very original. It's just my name. And then I also have my own website called Appletastic Learning, which is appletasticlearning.com. And thirdly, on Instagram, Shelly.Rees.
Fabulous. We will link all of those in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of this wonderful information and words of wisdom, because I think that's what they really are.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all that you do to help teachers on a regular basis.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, isn't Shelly just fantastic? As she talks, you can really hear the passion and the love that she has for teaching, for her students, and for helping other teachers achieve the same. As I said at the very beginning of this episode, Shelly has been a mentor for me for many, many years, and I truly admire and look up to her. I think she's got so much to offer the teaching world, and I am just so glad that she said yes to coming on our podcast. Thank you so much, Shelly, for sharing so authentically with our audience. We truly appreciate you. Teachers, I hope that you got some takeaways from this podcast. What I think I loved the most is that these ideas aren't groundbreaking, but they are so practical that you can use them straight away, which is genius and gold right there. We are going to be back at the same time next week. Please come and join us. We've got some amazing podcast interviews and podcast episodes planned for you. But until then, you know the drill. There are rainbows ahead, my friend, and together we're unstoppable.
Thanks for choosing to listen to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the go-to show dedicated to teachers who want to make a big difference in education.
If you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a 5-star review or share the episode with a friend. Because together we're
Unstoppable.